Have you been waiting for ultra-wide fast primes and zoom lenses for the Canon RF mount? Well, we've got a few patents that indicates Canon's listening to you. Stick around after this short break for all the details. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on X Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost anything. It really helps this channel grow, and it keeps you up to date on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. We've got a couple of patent applications to tell you about today. Patent application P2023-104029, published July the 28th, 2023, is for wide and fast primes with several lens embodiments we could see in the future. The first is the 15mm embodiment with an f2.8 and a back focus of 10.83. The second embodiment is also a 15mm but an f2. And the third embodiment, a 12mm f2.8. And the second patent application, P2023-104025, also filed on July the 28th, 2023, is for an 8 to 15mm f4 L series USM with a back focus of between 22 and 35mm and a length of 119.7mm. And the 16 to 24mm f4 L series USM has a back focus of 23 to 27mm at a length of 118.86mm. Of all the lens embodiments in these two patent applications, the one that interests me the most is the 16 to 24mm. What I love about this is, well, it's got all the fast primes that I'd want in a single lens, the 16mm, the 18, the 20, the 22, and the 24. And the reason why I would prefer to have it in a zoom instead of a prime, and I get the optics are better in a prime, that everything is purpose-built for that one focal length. But you see, I don't often shoot at 16mm, and I do have right here the 16mm, the RF version. I've even got the lens hood for it. And I don't shoot with it very much. There's a reason for that. It's the IBIS wobble. You see, I don't shoot a lot of stills, I shoot a lot of video. And the problem with the wobble is, well, take a look at this clip here. I was going up Grouse Mountain in North Vancouver, and it's pretty much ruined because of the wobble. It really frustrated me. And yes, you can certainly turn the IBIS off, but then you get that jitteriness, you get that shakiness, and then you have to put a you have to put a gimbal on, and then, you know, to deal with that issue. And of course, by the time you're done with that, you have to remember to turn IBIS back on. And I just wish that Canon would fix this. When the Canon EOS R5 came out in 2020, July 2020, we knew about the IBIS wobble. We could see it from what Peter McKinnon, one of their ambassadors, was saying, and that IBIS wobble has to go. But for a moment, I'm gonna forget that IBIS wobble for a minute. And this lens that I bought, I have shot with it a couple of times, but it's rarely in my bag. Even though it's a cheap and affordable and it doesn't take up much space, I just don't shoot with it as much. I primarily, for my use cases, I shoot most of the time between 35 and 50. And one of the reasons is because of that IBIS wobble. I know if I go below 35mm, I get the wobble. If I stay above it, I don't. But also because of where I live, the type of stuff that I shoot. My run and gun stuff, I find that 50mm is perfect for capturing my subject in the environment without capturing too much of the environment where you start to see utility poles or other things in the scene that you just don't want. The 50mm allows me to imagine I'm somewhere else by excluding those utility poles, those houses, roads, and other things that indicate there's a civilization. I really like to shoot as though I'm imagining myself somewhere else. And to have a 16 to 24mm with all those wide open and fast primes all in one, now that would make it a bit more utilitarian than a single 16mm. And if Canon goes ahead and fixes that IBIS wobble in the EOS R5 Mark II or the R1, well, that would be amazing. I mean, if we look at Sony and others, they don't have an IBIS wobble. But I think I understand what might be going on here. If you look at Canon with the R5 and you compare it to the Sony cameras and you compare their IBIS, Canon provides a lot more stabilization, and that works well until we drop below 35mm. So maybe Canon just put in a two-tiered system where above 35mm, you've got that aggressive wobble, and then when people drop below 35mm, you still have IBIS there, but it's not as aggressive and you don't get that wobble because it's irritating. I loved Vancouver. I spent a week there, and so much so that I want to move there. But that footage going up Grouse Mountain, well, I'd have to fly out there again to reshoot that. I'd have to spend another $200 to go up Grouse Mountain with my family. And, you know, it just kind of sucked the fun out of things. And that wobble is really got to go. But see, this is my use case scenario. There are a lot of incredible primes and zooms in these two patent applications. Which one seems interesting to you? Which do you like the most? And I know from polls I've conducted on this channel that a good, well, 50, 60% of you are photographers first, and there's probably another 30% that do photos and video, and only around 30% that actually just shoot video. But I still can't get over this IBIS wobble. Whenever I'm talking about lenses, whenever I talk about 16mm, which I love, I just love how when you're in a place like Vancouver, British Columbia, where you have these incredible vistas, like look what I shot here, and this is shooting at around 50mm, around 35mm. It's just absolutely beautiful. But to be able to put a 16mm on here and shoot this, wow, that would be even better. I'd have a much wider vista, and but I can't. I didn't even take the 16mm with me. The only two lenses I took with me when I went to Vancouver was the 50mm, which I shot with most of the time in low light situations, and the 24-105, which I shot pretty well everywhere else. And what you're seeing here in North Vancouver, in Grouse Mountain, that was shot with a 24-105. So when can we expect to see any of these lenses or any of these embodiments come to fruition into a product? Well, that's the tricky thing about patent applications. First of all, it's an application. It doesn't mean a patent's going to be granted. And it also means that even if a patent is granted, that doesn't mean that all these embodiments are actually going to come to market. Maybe Canon might think that based on the technology in these embodiments, that they might do something a little bit different. But a 16 to 24mm really does appeal to me because at that point, you're not dealing with fisheye. If you deal with something like an 18 to 15mm, I wonder how they deal with the fisheye. Maybe they have some sort of firmware that's going to be able to sort of work that out. But 16 to 24mm, that's really got my attention. But what about you? Tell me about the scenarios that you shoot in and which of these lenses you would like and why. And I'm really curious to know because one thing I've learned a lot on this channel is I have my own, how should we say, preconceptions, my own ideas, my own way of doing things. And as I follow up in the comments, as I read what you guys have to say, I learn a few more things. I open up my mind to other ideas and other possibilities, and I learn. And I think one thing that's allowed me to do is when I produce videos like this is to get a better understanding of how you use your cameras and why you use them and what drives you to do what you do. And for me, this is still very much a hobby. I am trying to turn this into a business, but I don't want to lose that fun part of it. I don't want to lose the hobby part of it because I was just thinking about that the other day. If I don't enjoy this, why do it? I want this to be a transition for me as I move from my full-time career as an enterprise architect into this camera channel and photography and videography as my retirement gig. And to move to a place like Vancouver where you've got beautiful mountains, you've got beautiful blue skies, you got that blue-green going for you, and you've got the water. And then you've got some stormy days with some really aggressive clouds. You've got some incredible climates, you've got some incredible vistas. I would love to shoot there, to be able to test out lenses for video and stills. That's a big dream of mine, and I do want to get there. I'm about 8 years away. It is realistic, although I'd probably go from my house here to probably a tiny condo. Pricing in Vancouver, I mean, it's not cheap here. The average price of a home where I live is between $1 and $2 million, and I don't know how the average person can afford a family home. I could not afford to buy today. I barely could afford to buy a few years ago, and in Vancouver, prices are almost twice as much. So, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but you know, not everywhere is expensive. Maybe I move, maybe I don't go to West Point Grey, maybe I go to other parts, but I just love the beauty out there and the air and everything. But let me know what you think about these lens embodiments. Let me know what lenses you would like to see coming up let me know what kind of lenses you would like to see Canon come out with. Ultra wide, super fast, whether they be primes, zooms, telephotos, or super telephotos. I know many of you are eager to see what happens with the Canon RF 200mm. Are we going to see that anytime soon? Canon Rumors has been teasing us about it, probably looking at 2024. I know the 35mm f1.2, oh my God, that one has been teased for a long time. And I kind of wonder, well, we've got the R1 coming out, the R5 Mark II coming out, and the 35mm f1.2, that is certainly a lens I could see Canon announcing alongside the R5 Mark II. And when it comes to super telephotos and telephotos, especially with the Paris 2024 Olympics coming out, you can expect that whenever we get an announcement of the R1, we're going to get, I wouldn't be surprised, several L-series USM RF lenses, super telephoto zoom lenses for the Canon EOS R1. So we have to be a little bit more patient. I do expect a lot of big announcements coming up here in the fall. Well, it's not the fall yet, but I'm already thinking there. August is going to be a bit of a teaser, and then we're going to get a bunch of announcements in September and October, and maybe even early November. And I'm still holding out. I know Canon Rumors is telling us that the R5 Mark II is going to be announced in the first half of 2024, but I'm still holding out of the possibility, like they did with the R6 Mark II, that we could get maybe an early November announcement of that camera, and then maybe it starts shipping in January. That camera, I can't wait. I really do need a second camera, and that's why I'm holding off for that, because instead of getting a second R5, what better way to get the new R5 Mark II, test it out, let you know what it's like, shoot with it, so I can give you first-hand experience. I'm not going to borrow it from Canon for about 3 or 4 days. I'm going to own it, so that way if you have any questions, I can tell you what it's like to live with this camera, like I live with the R5, all the lenses, the Ninja 5, the lights, and everything like that. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, then definitely hit that subscribe button. It really does help this channel out. And one thing I got to tell you is once I get to certain levels like 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 subscribers, it gets the channel noticed. It gets me noticed by various companies that want to help promote this channel, and you start to see a bit of a hockey stick. It starts to accelerate in terms of growth. So please, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest minor news and rumors or pricing discounts, then go ahead and follow me on Twitter or X. I'm not exactly sure what they're calling themselves, although I think Elon is really pushing that X, so before long, Twitter's going to be completely gone by the branding, but still people think of it as Twitter, so that's why I'm saying Twitter or X. But yeah, super incredible pricing deals on all the camera manufacturers right now. Even Sony's putting some incredible deals out. And if you use my affiliate links here, it really does help support the channel. That's why I'm able to afford to buy cameras like the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, as well as the Canon EOS R1. You'd be surprised, but the revenue I actually get from YouTube isn't that great. It's really the affiliate links that really help support the channel in terms of getting new equipment. So when you use the affiliate links down below, these guys right here, believe it or not, I get anywhere from 2 to 12% back. So that's why I know I have funding for the R5 Mark II, and we'll have funding for the R1. And that's something like, I think, $16,000 Canadian, probably about 12,000 US, probably even more. I don't even know what the R1's going to cost yet. I'm hoping it's not going to be over $7,000. But for the 1 series, we've seen the price do anything. You know, it'll jump up, it'll come down, it'll jump up, it'll stay, drop down a little bit. It's always up and down. So I'm a little bit hopeful because of the price of the Nikon Z8 dropped $1,000. That will, I know Canon's paid attention to that, and maybe that will. Maybe Canon will increase the price, but they won't go as high. But they're going to look at that Nikon Z9 and think, well, look, we're competing with this. It depends on how much more capable the Canon EOS R1 is over the Z9 as to what Canon prices it out at, as. Anyhow, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon.
What are you doing up there? I'm freaking out! I mean, why are you climbing our tree? Oh, seriously, buddy, it's really dangerous.
Yeah, it's really tiring too.
Look what you did.
It's supposed to happen.
No kidding, you dropped your belt.
Yeah, I can't look either.
No, you should look.
I did it!
All right. You did it. Let's sit down.
Wait, hold on. You guys hear that?
Hear what?
I got the hiccup!
Okay, yep. Now I hear him. Head stand on a 60-foot tree, guys. Give him a hand. That is really, really stupid.
going on Instagram. You can follow me at Ladies Choice 93. Hey, you wiggle, squeeze it a little bit.
Not really.
Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Let's take a bit of a step back then.